So a few days back, I decided to take part in the Wowie Game Jam, where you had to make a game in 3 days on a given topic. This year's topic was and he also said by AI, it doesn't mean an actual AI, but he said it can be anything automated that does something to help the player. So here's how it went. I started out with brainstorming ideas for some time, and once finished, I discarded all of them and decided I would go with something that I always wanted to make, but instead incorporate the theme into it somehow. So after struggling for 2 hours, I was finally able to come up with this plan. So you have a car with a gun on top, which I now realize is just a tank, but the tank is slow, so I'll stick with a car. And whenever enemies spawn near it, the gun aligns itself and destroys it. In order for the gun to keep shooting the player needs to keep collecting ammos across the map by controlling the car. As simple as that. So I quickly jumped into Blender but decided to close it even before I deleted the cube, realizing it's gonna take way too much time to make these models. So I decided to find some models on sketchfab.com. I then opened a new Unity project and made a car. Well, at least I thought so. But after fixing that, I now add a working car. So I quickly got into making the gun mechanic of the game. By quickly, I definitely don't mean after spending 10 minutes driving this masterpiece I just made. The logic of the AI gun was really simple. All I had to do was find the position of the enemy and find the position of the player. Now that I had these 2 points, I could get the direction. And using this direction, the only 2 things I had to do was align the gun towards the enemy and shoot towards it. It was now day 2 and I wanted a missile explosion to have a cartoony aesthetic look. So I found a tutorial for just that, and it was at this moment I realized the true potential of Unity's particle system. As for the gun, I found a missile launcher model by Idealton which went with the car really well. Then I decided to make enemies for the game and decided to make them drones, cause they look cool. So why not? But I did not have the model for the drone. So once I added that, I made the drones follow the player using Unity's nav mesh package, which takes care of the AI movement of the drone. And for the camera to follow the player, I use Unity's Cinemachine package, which just makes setting up the camera so much easier. I then took some time to fix bugs, and once I was done with that, I moved on to level design. And the look I wanted to go for was inspired by the game called Absolute Drift. I also had a camera shake effect using Cinemachine and skid marks for the car by using some sweet code I found online. By the time I got all of this working, it was day 3 and I started with making a tutorial for the game. It was my first time I actually made a proper tutorial for a game, and it definitely took way more time than I expected. Having made a tutorial, I had about 5 hours left and still had a lot of things to do. I still had to make a start menu, an end screen, add sound effects and background music, fix bugs and do some polishing. So I quickly got into working on those. I actually don't have much to show here since I was in a hurry of getting everything done, so for the most part I forgot to record. But after spending 3 hours, I was finally able to add a start menu, also made an ending sequence and got the bugs fixed. Hopefully. Once all this was done, the only thing I had left to do was to add sound and music. So I created some sound effects using SFXR, and for music, since I knew I wouldn't be able to make something that's not annoying in such a short time, I decided to use Context Sensitive's music, which was free to use. After a bit of polishing, I finally submitted the game about 3 minutes before the submission period ended and was pretty happy with it. The car physics is definitely a little hard to control, but I don't think anyone will notice it, so we're good. Okay. So it turns out everyone who played my game had a hard time controlling the car, which I agree I should have paid more attention to, but overall the game is definitely better than the previous games I've made so far, so I was pretty happy with it. Which brings us to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested, you can follow me on Twitter. I usually tweet about stuff I'm currently working on. And I will also be uploading more videos regularly, and definitely not after another 7 or 8 months. So if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.